Okay, aloha, good evening. Welcome everyone to tonight's meeting on the draft Waikapuna Resources Management Plan. I still see folks joining in right now, so we're going to give everyone a couple more minutes. In the meantime, if you haven't had a chance to sign in yet, please sign in. There's a link in the chat box. Sherry, okay, there you go. There's a link in the chat box, so it'd be great if you can just sign in. And we'll get started in maybe 3 or 4 minutes.
Hi, this is Randy Hirayama joining the meeting.
Hi, Randy. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good, good. Thanks for joining us.
All right. No problem. Thank you for inviting.
Okay, let's get started. I think some folks are still signing in. But again, aloha. My name is Gabrielle Sham. I'm one of 4 planners at Townscape, and we were contracted through the county of Hawaii to help with putting together this management plan for Waikapuna. And I just want to start off by saying mahalo to everyone who's helped, who put in time to engage with us, to talk story with us, or put up flyers for this tonight's meeting. Just thank you so much for your time and for your help. I also want to introduce Sherry Hiroka. She's also part of Townscape, and she's on this call. So she's going to be taking notes and monitoring the chat box during tonight's meeting. We also have folks from the County of Hawaii on this call, and also from ATA as well, listening in on this meeting. Okay, so if you joined us during our last community meeting, you might remember we had asked you this question: why is Waikapuna important or special to you? Here on the screen are some of the responses. So childhood memories of Waikapuna, ka'u is my piko, subsistence gathering, cultural practices, iwi kupuna, it's ka'u, part of our home. There were also many other responses that shared very similar sentiments. I just want to share a quick story before we begin. So the other day, I had a conversation with a community member. It was for another project that I'm working on. And I had asked them, why is this place important to you? Or what does this place mean to you? And I thought it was really interesting because this community member responded. He said, why not rephrase this question and ask, why are you important to this place? Or what do you mean to this place? And so I just really wanted to share that because it really resonated with me. And as we go through tonight's presentation and discussion, instead of asking and thinking, why is Waikapuna important or special to you? Let's think about, why are you important to Waikapuna? Or what do you mean to Waikapuna? So tonight's agenda, we have about a 30-minute presentation to share the draft management plan with you, and then we'll have time for comments and questions. We won't be able to cover everything that's in the management plan, but we hope to be able to at least highlight some of the key concepts. The draft plan is available on the county's website. Sherry, if you can post the link on the chat box, that would be great. There's also hard copies of the management plan available at the Pahala and Nalehu public libraries. If you prefer to review a hard copy, that's there as well. So just before we begin, some ground rules for the meeting. We're just asking participants to follow. Please be respectful, keep an open mind, agree to disagree. We don't have to agree on everything, but just please be respectful. And then for those of you that are familiar with the Zoom platform, you can use the chat box at any time to type in a comment. Sherry will be monitoring it and she can answer your questions. I'm going to mute some, maybe this person. Okay. Okay, so the management plan covers the entire Waikapuna parcel, and it's a little over 2,300 acres within the ahupua'a of Kahili Nui and Kahili Iki. So I just want to emphasize that the management plan covers the entire parcel. It's not just focused on Waikapuna Bay, but it also includes all the lands surrounding the bay, all the Mauka lands, including the lands that are currently used for ranching. So the map on the left side of your screen, this red dashed line outlines the property boundary. So here's Nalehu Town, the main road. The top of the property boundary starts about a 1/4 mile makai of the main road, and then extends about 2.5 miles down to the coastline. So in December 2019, ATA, a nonprofit organization, they raised funds through the State Legacy Land Conservation Program, the county's Preservation Fund, and through the help of Trust for Public Land and private donors to acquire Waikapuna for conservation. And ATA's interest in preserving these lands is to protect the ancient trail network, but also including the surrounding cultural, historical, and natural landscape as well. And then I just wanted to emphasize that the county is involved in this process because the county holds a conservation easement over the property, which protects it from development. So in addition to the conservation easement protection, there's the property, since the property was also purchased using state funds through the Legacy Land Conservation Program, there's an extra layer of protection in there because within the deed of Waikapuna, it states specifically that the property has to be managed consistently with the purposes for which the grant was awarded. So what is the purpose of this management plan, or why is it being developed? Yes, it is required to fulfill the grant agreements with both the State Legacy Land Conservation Program and the county's conservation easement. but really it's also needed to help guide stewardship actions and strategies, and to make sure that the resources are protected and preserved as stated in the grant agreements. So if you've had a chance to take a look at the management plan, at the end of the management plan in the appendix, you'll find a copy of the conservation easement grant agreement. So you can refer to that to read the actual agreement between the county and ATA. So the management plan generally includes the following information. There's background information that describes the purpose of the plan. It provides information about the grant funding and then the planning process of how we develop the management plan. Then there's a section that describes the site. It also provides a summary of the resources of Waikapuna. There is a summary of the talk story sessions, what we heard from individuals about what they value of the place, some of the issues and concerns. And then the management plan also proposes action items and strategies that are grouped into 5 different topic areas, and we'll go into that in further detail. And then it also provides a framework on how to implement this management plan. And then I just want to point out that the management plan has to be aligned with the values that are stated in both the county conservation easement and the state legacy land conservation program grant agreements. So to develop the management plan, we reviewed existing reports, including flora studies and archaeological reports that were completed for this area. And it helped us to understand, the resources of the place from a technical perspective. But in addition to these technical reports, we also met with people of the place, many of you folks that are on the call tonight, to better understand what is it that you value about Waikapuna, your connection to this place, and important elements for us to consider while putting together the management plan. So we held in-person and virtual talk story sessions with individuals. Many were either past and current site users, some fishermen, cultural practitioners, descendants of the place, people who just have intimate knowledge of Waikapuna. And then we also conducted some site visits to better understand the place. Okay, so during our last meeting, we also posed this question: what is it that you envision Waikapuna to be like in 50 years? Some people said it was really hard to envision because it's not often that we think that far out in the future. But, others here on the screen, you'll see some of the responses to remain as we see it today, and developed and thriving with abundance in fish population and native vegetation, looking the same, pristine and rugged, a land that's respected, stewarded in a way that provides the Aina bricks to rejuvenate its resources in between visitors, undeveloped. So during our talk story sessions, residents also shared with us what they value about Waikapuna. And just quick summary, so for lineal descendants, Waikapuna connects them to their families through their iwi kupuna who are buried there. Others share the significance of just being able to spend time with family at Waikapuna, being able to teach their kids, their grandkids. One person even recalled learning at Waikapuna at a young age with her dad how to do hooks, specific places to go fishing, daytime, nighttime, learning to follow the moon cycle. So in general, many folks just talked about the importance of Waikapuna as a place for education, spending time with family, and to be able to practice cultural practices. And then some of the issues and concerns, I'm not going to read all of these on the screen here, but just to highlight a few, just impacts from unrestricted access, fire risk from increased use and drought condition, just impacts from fire response, specifically how that might impact cultural resources, safety from ocean conditions, and the terrain, especially for people that are going down to the bay for their first time. If you don't really know the road, it could be pretty dangerous. So the management plan emphasizes two key concepts: cultivating knowledge and community stewardship. Cultivating knowledge really just starts with building awareness of the resources that exist at Waikapuna. This way, people can understand what are the resources of the place, and in turn, be able to develop a greater appreciation and respect for the place as well. And then when you encourage community stewardship, it helps to elevate the relationship between people and place. Through community stewardship, the community can take on an active role in caring for the resources and actually determining the fate of their resources. So as I mentioned earlier, the management plan identifies specific goals and action items for 5 topic areas. So on the screen from left to right, this includes archaeological, cultural, and historic resources, native plants, marine and avian or bird resources, fire prevention and management, and then existing structures, roads, trails, and utilities. So these topic areas are identified in the county's conservation easement and the state grant agreements that I mentioned earlier. So they really set the framework for this management plan. Some of the action items for each of these topic areas can be implemented with the help of the community through a volunteer program, but some may also require more technical expertise or specific training, particularly when working with sensitive resources. So the management plan includes specific action items for each of the topic areas that I just mentioned. And I'll discuss in more detail on the following slides, but on this screen is a overview of the various action items throughout the Waikapuna parcel. It's color coded here by the different topic areas. So in purple, this is the cultural resources, green, native plants, the blue is the marine avian resources, and then the orange one is fire prevention and management. And then this brown color, existing structures, roads, trails, and utilities. So for example, for cultural resources, we've identified different action items throughout the parcel that are needed. And you can see by these purple circles that we've called out. And then, for example, for native plants, because most of the intact native plants are found along the coastline, you'll see that most of the native plant projects are focused along the coastline here. Okay, so I'm going to just go through each of the topic areas and talk a little bit about the action items and the big picture strategy on how to address that topic area. So on the right side of your screen here, it illustrates the archaeological, cultural, and historic sites shaded in blue. This is taken from an archaeological survey that was done for this property. So here are 2 main sites that are identified, and you can see that there are a lot of cultural sites throughout the property, including salt pans, trails, house sites, burials. So the immediate approach to cultural resources is, of course, to build awareness through education, making sure that people understand what their resources are. This could be done through educational hikes, so making sure that people are aware of what resources are at Waikapuna. We also need to monitor the sites, particularly in areas with the highest use from the public. So for example, surrounding Waikapuna Bay, making sure we're really monitoring the sites around that area. And then maintaining the vegetation around the sites, making sure that we're only using hand clearing methods when we're working with vegetation around the cultural sites. If there's any fencing that's done around cultural sites, there must be ongoing maintenance to maintain the vegetation, because overgrown vegetation can cause just as much damage to the sites, and of course, increase fuel loads for wildfires. For the areas that are leased for ranching, conduct a walkthrough with the lessees, making sure they understand where the sensitive cultural sites are and where extra care needs to be taken. And then also to repair the cattle ranch wall and install a gate. Okay, for native plants, the most intact native plants are focused, are located along the coast. So right around this area where it says 3, 4. So really focusing efforts there, removing invasive plants to allow the existing native plants to thrive and regenerate before we start any type of outplanting, monitoring for any pests and or diseases, paying attention to the myopilo that's on the south side of the property and the wheelie trees. And just in general, prioritizing opportunities that will benefit both cultural resources and practices and native plants. Okay, for marine and bird resources, focus on promoting responsible land uses. So for example, if there's any kind of chemical fertilizers that are used, making sure that it's not used within so many feet from the shoreline, making sure that there's no light pollution that may attract or disorient native seabirds. Again, building awareness through educational outreach and stewardship. For example, conducting regular beach cleanups with the community. There should also be a long-term scientific monitoring program of the resources of Waikapuna, and that information collected can be used to support local knowledge and traditional ways of stewardship. And then also establish a community Makai Watch program. They can become the eyes and ears looking out for the resources along this coastline. For fire prevention and management, making sure that people accessing the site will not increase fire risk. Fires should really only be happening within designated fire pits. There should be no smoking on the property, making sure that people stay on designated roadways when they're going towards the bay. Maintaining vegetation along the roads so that it can serve as fuel breaks, especially during dry seasons. And then communicating and coordinating with the fire department so that they know where the cultural sites are and which roadways to use when they are responding to fires. Also working closely with them and other stakeholders to develop a detailed fire management plan to protect fire personnel and resources during fire suppression. For the last topic area, for the existing roads and trails, maintain the existing roads and trails to make sure that it's safe for people to use, and also to be able to support firefighting activities. There are also 3 structures at the top of the property that are pretty run down, but finding opportunities to restore and reuse it if possible. Possibly it can be used to support stewardship activities. For example, it could serve as a gathering space for volunteers or even a plant nursery. And then any improvements that are done to the existing structures or roads, it can't compromise the sense of place or negatively impact the cultural resources. And it also needs to comply with the grant of conservation easement, with the grants with the county and the state. Okay, so I just provided a quick overview of the different management action items for each of the 5 topic areas. So in addition to those stewardship actions, the management plan also talks about the need to provide spaces for individuals and families through kupuna days, ohana days, organized volunteer work days, or the overnight access to be able to engage with the place and have a role in stewardship as well. So for kupuna days, it's just a space for kupuna of the place to access, to go to Waikapuna, talk story, and share knowledge of the place. For ohana days, that's an opportunity for families to spend time together, engage in their practices, whether it's to malama the place, teach their kids or grandkids traditions, or to gather. For overnight access, which most of you folks are familiar with the existing weekend access that allows one group at a time to stay overnight. And then organized volunteer work days, that just allows individuals and community groups to participate in an organized volunteer work day to carry out some of the action items that I just described. So some of the examples of a volunteer work day could be helping to maintain the vegetation along the roadways, picking up rubbish around Waikapuna Bay, or helping to remove invasive plants. And so by creating these spaces for people to have a role in stewardship at Waikapuna, we're also reconnecting people to place and building community capacity at the same time. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about the kupuna days and ohana days. So in the past, access to Waikapuna for the community has predominantly been on the weekends for overnight access, right? And we understand that lately there's been a high demand for the overnight access. And folks have also shared that sometimes, you know, the weather or the conditions just right, and they just want to be able to go to Waikapuna. Not something that they plan out like a year in advance. So the ohana days are intended to address that issue specifically. So both kupuna and ohana days would occur during the weekdays to avoid conflict with weekend overnight access. We don't want 2 groups on there at the same time. So it'd be one family or group at a time. Someone from the family or group must have visited Waikapuna before for safety reasons. And unlike the overnight weekend access, where you have to reserve way in advance, requests for kupuna ohana days would be at the beginning of the week and would only allow for 1 day access only. Okay, for the overnight access, which most of you guys are familiar with, that's typically on the weekends, it would still be 1 group allowed at a time. 1 weekend per month would be used for the organized volunteer work days that I just talked about earlier, just to let the place rest. So there would be no overnight access during that weekend. Reservations would be required for overnight access, and you would only be able to hold 1 reservation at any given time. And then reservations would be available on a quarterly basis. So again, you know, we understand that there's been a high demand for overnight access over the weekends, and that it's been booked really far out. Some folks have said they had to wait for a year or more. So to address that issue, reservations would only be made on a quarterly basis. And then participation in community stewardship or volunteering would be encouraged. And as part of that, it would allow for priority access to make a reservation. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this overnight access some more. So the reservation system would be done on a quarterly basis. So people can only make a reservation for each quarter. So for example, here on the screen, the first quarter, that would be January, February, and March. The second quarter, April, May, and June, and so forth. So if you wanted to make a reservation for the first quarter, you could make a reservation the month prior to the quarter, which would be December. So same thing for the second quarter. If I wanted to make a reservation for the second quarter for overnight stay sometime in April, May, or June, the reservation would open the month prior to the quarter, so it would be March. So this quarterly system that we're proposing is a way to address some of the issues that we've heard where people are saying that they're waiting a very long time to make a reservation. And with the quarterly system, it's a way to keep the weekends from being fully booked really far out in advance. And at any given time, really, it would only be booked 3 months out if we use a quarterly system. Okay, so during the month that you can make a reservation, there will be an order of priority to access the reservation system. So for those who volunteered at Waikapuna, will be given priority in the sense that during the first Monday of that month, they would be able to access the reservation system and make a reservation. We understand that not everyone has time to volunteer, everyone's busy. So if you didn't get a chance to volunteer, that's okay. If you're a Ka'u resident and you didn't get a chance to volunteer, you would be able to access the reservation system during the second Monday of the month. And then if you are a non-Ka'u resident and who didn't get the chance to volunteer, you would be able to access the reservation system during the third Monday of that month. So let's walk through this again. I know it's a little complicated. We'll use the second quarter as an example. So say I wanted to request access to Waikapuna for next month, either April, May, or June for the second quarter. So reservations would open up in March, so this month. If I volunteered, then I can go and make a reservation during the first Monday of March. But if I was really busy, I didn't get a chance to volunteer, I'm a Ka'u resident, then I can make a reservation. I can access the reservation system, make a reservation during the second Monday of that month. And then if I'm not a Ka'u resident, didn't get to volunteer, then I would be able to make a reservation during the third Monday of March. Okay, to implement this management plan, it's not going to happen overnight. We're going to have to be patient. It's going to take some time. Here on the screen, so there's a stewardship committee. Basically, they will oversee implementation of the management plan and help guide ATA on stewardship programs and projects. There's also an administrative coordinator who will basically oversee the administration of programs, the Ohana days, Kupuna days, the volunteer work days, handling the check-in, check-out of the keys. And they will also work closely with resource specialists, so people, folks that are hands-on, on the ground, and they will be overseeing and interacting with the different groups on site. So both the administrative coordinator and the resource specialist will report to the stewardship committee. And it's going to take some time to actually fund both these positions. So in the meantime, the stewardship committee will have to fulfill some of the duties and the roles and responsibilities of both the administrative coordinator and the resource specialist. So just a little bit more about the stewardship committee. Again, they will be overseeing implementation of the management plan. Because there's such a diverse range of resources of Waikapuna to consider, members of the stewardship committee should be comprised of representatives of a kupuna, lineal descendant, fisherman, cultural practitioner, making sure that there's a co-resident representative, youth representative, educational specialist, archaeologist, ecologist, and then an ATA board member representative. So by having members representative of these different groups, various groups, it would be more effective in helping to guide ATA on stewardship programs and projects. Again, the stewardship committee members, they are all just volunteers, so they're serving in a voluntary capacity. And so until funding is secured for administrative coordinator or resource specialist, the stewardship committee will basically have to kind of fulfill the roles of those positions. Here's a number of administrative tasks the ATA will need to accomplish. So establishing the stewardship committee, so developing protocols for holding meetings, procedures for selecting members, making sure that all the members understand their duties and responsibilities, holding regular meetings as a committee. They'll also have to update their existing lease agreements and make sure that reflects the values and action items that are presented in the management plan. They'll need to establish and organize the administration of Kupuna Days, the Ohana Days, and the organized volunteer workday programs. Also identify and implement an online system so that we can streamline the reservation process. Instead of having to call or email someone, let's just make it online. So it's just an easier, more efficient process. And then, of course, seeking funding to hire staff to coordinate the Kupuna Days, Ohana Days, and the organized volunteer work days. So phasing plan, again, it's not going to happen overnight. We need to be patient. It's going to take some time. So this table, it's not comprehensive, but it's just intended to identify some of the major milestones and to help guide stewardship and to evaluate progress in implementing the management plan. So as you can see, there's some short-term actions. Some of them are ongoing action, and then there's more mid-range, 5 to 10 years, and longer range projects as well. Okay, before we open it up for questions and comments, just one last slide that I want to close on. In order for this management plan to be successful, a level of trust and relationship must be developed and maintained between ATA and the community through ongoing dialogue and willingness to work together. I think we can all agree that the ultimate goal is to make sure that Waikapuna is protected, thriving in resources, a place where families can continue to spend time together, pass on knowledge and practices to their kids and grandkids. But in order for that to happen, there must be a level of trust and relationship that's developed and maintained between ATA and the community. Another important key to success is collaboration. Collaboration with other nonprofit organizations and partnerships with adjacent landowners, such as the state, Kamehameha Schools, Department of Hawaiian Homelands, that would provide for greater landscape level protection and stewardship. We can't be working in a silo. We need to look at this coastline as one whole coastline. And then lastly, the management plan, it's going to need to be periodically updated to assess if there's any progress, new information that's gathered, any new issues that arise. So adaptive management is key. There's also many external factors that sometimes we just don't have control over, such as a pandemic or climate change. So we just need to be flexible and work together in the best interest of the place. Okay, so at this time, we're gonna open it for comments and questions. We have about a little less than an hour left. I'll try my best to answer any questions, but if Sharon and I both don't have the answers, we'll collect them and we'll definitely get back to you on your questions. Just a quick reminder of the ground rules that we established early on. So just please be respectful. Give everyone an opportunity to speak before speaking again. We do have 40 folks on this call. And okay, let's see. I'm gonna actually close out of this screen so we can see everybody. Hey, okay. Okay, we can open up for comments. You can raise your hand virtually or physically, or if you called in, you can also press *9 and that will raise your hand and then I can call on you. Any comments or questions? Let me scroll through this just in case I missed anybody.
Or Gabby, I can read off some of the comments in the chat.
Okay, I think I might have also seen someone raise their hand. Or
Oh, you wanna go to them
okay.
first? Oh, okay.
Sure, let's do Eric and then Nana. Nana.
Aloha, I'm Patty. I went to Waikapuna and above the cliff area, there's some really beautiful bubbly rock features with depressions. They're very appealing. And my feeling is they should actually remain there, but they're the kind of thing that people will be drawn to and will appeal to people. And some of them are rather small and look like little vases and stuff like that. How do you protect those pohaku?
That's a really good question. I think it's just a matter of working with ATA and the community. Some of it is just building awareness, education, and working with the community to educate them about the resources.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nana?
Aloha, can you hear me okay? Yes, okay. Okay, so I have a bunch of things, but I wanted to know, I didn't read through, I kind of skimmed the conservation grant itself. I know it was there. And so the question I was curious about is, what is the oversight for the conservation grant? Do you know offhand?
You mean as far as who will be enforcing?
Yes, that's exactly.
Okay, so it's the county of Hawaii, and then every year they do an annual monitoring, and there's ATA has a report to the county of Hawaii as well.
Okay, and in that process, is there any community involvement?
Not that I am aware of, but it's possible. I'll have to take another look in the grant agreement.
Okay, I have a few more things I want to ask, but just one that I want to put in, and then if anybody else has stuff, and then maybe we can come back to me again. But I just have to put this out there. As I was reading through the conservation grant, I ran across the legal description of the property, and also briefly looked at, you know, the history of the title of the property. And so one thing that I've been putting out there to people, whether it be the Department of the Interior, you know, NAGPRA stuff, or even the National Science Foundation, when we're talking about lineal descendants having rights and interests or rights in decision-making processes, they're always putting the onus of who the lineal descendants are. They need to come forward and present themselves. And I would like to suggest, and Gabriel, I don't know if it's just for you, but I would just like to suggest that because of the title of the property, the chain of the title, and the fact that, you know, we do know who the family names are of the families that have rights or whatever interest in this area is known. I mean, I don't know that it's Alakahakai Trail's responsibility, but I'm starting to feel that in this day and age that there should be a way for the landowner to be able to reach out to the lineal descendants instead of saying lineal descendants come, you know, put it no. So I don't really expect that you or Alakahakai will do that, but I want to put that out there and I want it to be in the record. All right. Thank you.
That's a great suggestion. So taking a more active role in reaching out to the lineal descendants is what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
I feel that the state and maybe even the federal government, but especially the state, all the palapala of the titles of the land and of, I mean, I don't know whether state has to actually do genealogy, but I'm like, whether it's, you know, a notice in the newspaper or, I mean, there are ways, there should be ways that they, like, and I'm not saying just like you, I'm talking like Department of Interior and the United States of America, you want people's input. Well, it's your responsibility as trustees to reach out, to find these people, to locate them and to allow them a chance to have input. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jason, I see your hand up.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Hi.
Hey, so I guess more like procedurally, and I've been reviewing the management plan since I got the email, but so I know Jody Rosen guys go down to do like the volunteer cleanup, which I always seem to miss. So one, I guess I was wondering, and I don't know if this is you guys, if there's like a schedule of when those are, because I always seem to find out, you know, when I don't have like enough advance notice to go. And then two, you were talking about like the volunteer thing and how that would work regarding the like for the scheduling, so that if you volunteered, then you would have, you know, prioritized access. So, but that the volunteers would have their own weekend when there wouldn't be overnight camping allowed. So I was kind of confused how that works. So so do the volunteers just go whenever they want, or do they first have their own priority, or is that the same as the people? Are they grouped together with the people that volunteer with them? Or I was kind of confused how are the volunteer groups and the people that volunteer with them in the same priority? So if I volunteer with Jody guys, theoretically I could have I could schedule to have overnight, and then they wouldn't be able to go down and clean up. That's kind of the way I heard it.
Okay,
So.
Let me answer your first question regarding the volunteer schedule and when that might, basically your question is kind of, how will you find out when the volunteer opportunities will be, right?
That's the first one, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess a little bit of timeline and schedule. So we're still kind of working on final. So after this meeting, we'll finalize a plan, hopefully around May timeframe. Shortly after, it'll take ATA some time to kind of get everything together. But my understanding is they will probably try to at least have an organized volunteer workday for folks to participate at least by July timeframe. But after we finalize the management plan, I understand that ATA will at least be updating their website and making all that information publicly available. So I think the best source is going to ATA's website to be informed of anything relating to Waikapuna. But I can confirm with ATA after this meeting to make sure that's kind of where they're headed as well, as far as notifying people about volunteering and so forth. Because I
Okay.
know on the website right now, you can submit information, tell them you're interested. But I will definitely share this information with everybody in this call. After this meeting, I'll check in with ATA to make sure how they plan on notifying people as far as volunteering.
Okay.
Does that answer
Um,
the first question?
Kinda. So I guess, and I forgot to answer the second part. So I know part of the concern was more on the southerly side, where people are like crossing over from Camilo. And I know you addressed that specifically, and I didn't, maybe I missed that in the draft management plan, about how that would fit into, because wouldn't that be like an overnight like watchdog group? Or how would that fit into the reservation and or like day use aspect?
Okay, so the public, if they want to walk in by foot, anyone has access through the trail to walk in through the south side to Waikapuna. When we're talking about providing overnight access through the reservation system, that's providing vehicular access.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess maybe I'm not saying it right. So the like people, I guess the concern in one of the previous meetings was that people would take like their four-wheelers from Camilo and just roll up, and there wasn't really any way to regulate that. And so my understanding that you were talking about tonight was that there would be some, I don't have access to your presentation, so I don't recall what you called it. But that there would be some type of like Mackay watch, I think you said.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, a community Mackay watch, I think it happens statewide. Usually it's more about the fishery side, but just kind of getting the community more involved, because usually, I mean, the state, don't care, they only have so much capacity, but getting community involved to kind of be the eyes and ears. And usually that's been effective in different communities to kind of, I wouldn't say self-regulate, but like to kind of just be out in Waikapuna, because usually if there's people there, you can talk to them, maybe share that there's resources here, and kind of hopefully change some behavioral.
Okay,
Kind of.
so it'd be like an informal, everybody that's there would be aware of it, and we're all Mackay watch kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But I do want to answer your other question related to where I had mentioned that one weekend would be designated for volunteers only. So that's
Mhm.
not overnight access. I'm just saying that one weekend a month will be designated for organized volunteering. So ATA will organize an event where people can all come together and volunteer together as a group. So there won't
Right.
be any overnight camp or overnight access or people staying down there at the same time,
Right.
because we don't want to conflict the two uses. And it's a
Right.
time just to allow the place to kind of rest and, yeah.
Right. I guess my question was, so that's already set like for the entire year at the beginning of the year, or how is that prioritized?
No, that's a great question. I mean, we're just working through the management plan right now. So it's going to take some time for ATA to start rolling out these ideas. And so I would assume that once we finalize a plan that, ATA, maybe through their website or whichever method, that they would at least share how they're rolling out all these different
Okay, that makes sense.
programs.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
Have a good night.
I see there's a phone caller. You raised your hand, ending 6737. You can
Hello.
press star 6. Okay, aloha.
Got it. Cool. Calling in to inquire a little bit more explanation on like the reservation process. So I get the idea of the volunteers get access on that first month to be able to put in reservations. Then Ka'u residents on the second Monday to put in reservations. I guess the question becomes on the third Monday, is it open to everyone or Hawaii residents only? And then a further clarification is, well, like, are there any thoughts on limiting the size of groups? If you volunteer on that first month, are you then able to bring people with you? And if so, any thought given to how many and what other parameters might be placed on that?
Yeah, great question. I understand that currently there are some limitations to the group size, and I would assume that it would probably be same or similar limitations. I'm not exactly sure of the exact number, but I think it would kind of follow the similar kind of rules that's been occurring. And then for your other question about the third week, it would just be, yeah, it would be open to anyone, anyone non-Ka'u residents as well. So anyone could be, yeah, anyone could make a reservation during that week.
Okay, so that could like also include like people visiting from off island, like tourists or like.
Right, assuming that there's still weekends available for that quarter.
Of course, just wanted to inquire. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I see a hand raised. It's called Alehu. If you're a phone caller, okay, there you go. You have to, okay, there we go.
I'm so sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hey, neighbors, it's me, Bob Martin. I just had a follow-up to the question I was just asked, and that has to do with access to camping. And is it still taking over a year to get a campsite down there?
I'm actually not sure what it currently is. I just know in the past, throughout last year, while we were talking story with community folks, that was my understanding and that's what we heard. So I'm not sure what the current status is.
Is there somebody on the call that can answer that? Is there somebody on the call that can answer that?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but let me see if I can find out for you before the end of this meeting.
I appreciate that. And also, when is the next meeting? And can we just get together at the Nalehu Community Center?
Well, so this meeting, we're taking comments on the draft plan, and we'll have like another 30, we'll leave the comment period open for another 30 days. So if you have any comments specific to the management plan, you can email me or call me or write me a letter, and I'll show you I'll share my screen in a little bit. But shortly after that, we will be finalizing the management plan. And then, so I'm not sure if ATA will have a meeting to kind of share kind of their implementation process, but that's something we can find out for you and get back to you on.
I think it's important for a lot of my neighbors and myself that we meet here, the kind we can see each other in person. And, we still have a lot of issues with technology in the district. I'm sure there'd be a lot more people involved if we can meet face to face. There's no pandemic anymore. There's no reason we can't meet face to face. That's all I have. Thanks so much.
Understood. Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Gabby, why don't I go ahead and read off a couple of comments from the chat?
Sure. Can we also call Michael first? He just raised his hand.
Sure. Okay.
Michael.
Do you mean Mel?
Oh, hi, Mel. Is it?
Hi. Oh, okay. Thanks for the invitation. The question I had is what I emailed you really is looking at, I guess, changes back in the hometown, having trust and transparency probably is needed just to kind of start off, right? But having that trusted agent on the committees, on the boards, will give that transparency that, hey, this is what's going on, and here's, but really the why behind it, if that makes sense. And also, why the community days are being not controlled, hosted by ATA, and who has a vote in that. But also, I see the implementation is monitored by the CDP, the folks on the CDP. So, I think there's enough folks involved, but having someone sit on the committee, on the stewardship committee, especially from a trusted agent, I think that'll go a long way. So appreciate the opportunity to provide comments. Thanks.
Yeah, I guess for folks that are on this call, if anyone's interested in participating or being involved in the stewardship committee, I think you should reach out to ATA. The information's on their website, and be part of that stewardship committee. Mel, you did mention something about implementation of the plan being overseen by the CDP. I'm not exactly sure if that's
I forgot what page it was, but it's in the management plan. It states that what is it called? The community development plan. So the CDP members who developed that plan will help implement ATA's plan. If that makes sense. It's in the document. I forgot what page it was.
Okay, it might have just been talking about the COHU CDP and the action committee, but implementation of the plan is not really the CDP. Yeah, but I'll take another look at that. Thank you.
Yep, and there's some folks on the line here that are on the CDP committee, so they can probably answer it.
Okay, thank you. So Michael, I see your hand raised. You're calling in from a phone. Do you want to unmute yourself?
No, my question is that in the past, the way the land was managed, residents could have a short-term access when the weather is good to gather, to fish to gather. Is there provisions in the management plan that could still be possible, or is it still by reservation, which means that if you want to go down for a day or for a couple hours, you might put it in and you might get it and you might not. It might be 2 months off. It might be 3 months off. Is there a provision for a short term allowance, a quick thing because of weather, when the weather turns good?
Yeah, really great question. It is. So we did talk a lot about kind of the weekend overnight access, but as you may recall, I did talk a little bit about the Kupuna and Ohana days, and those are really meant to address what you just brought up. When the condition's good, the weather's good, and they're intended to be just 1 day access, and reservations made that Monday of that week. So it's nothing that you reserve far out in advance. So that's what those Kupuna and Ohana days are intended to provide.
Okay, so that would be done. That would have to be done on a Monday. So if conditions are good on a Monday, and then you go, I'm going to call up and I can go Friday, but the quick conditions are not good on Friday and you have to cancel. But that's just the arrangement, right?
I mean, usually can I ask your question? How far in advance would you have notice of when you might want to go down there for that kind of time?
Well, that's what I'm saying. See, down here, we're subject to the weather, and the weather could hinder it for many, for many places for a long time. But sometimes, like we just came through, we had some really nice weather, which gathering for certain things is you can, where you normally can't. But if the conditions turn good and there's no provision to be able to take advantage of the weather, then that's my question. That's really my question. Because in the past, you could call up to whoever was stewarding the land and say, is there access to the beach today? Oh, yes, come get the access.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we'll take another look, and maybe, it's not the first Monday of the month or the week or something, but just to kind of address those issues that you raised. Okay, Sherry, did you want to go ahead and read some of the questions?
Sure. So earlier during your presentation, there was a question that was asked. Mel asked if we're going to be posting comments from everyone as well as responses. My initial response was that we would post a summary of comments and some brief responses. And then there was a request to share all of the comments verbatim. I guess our concern was that, you know, sometimes there's duplicate comments. And so just to keep things simple for everyone and not have to go through, you know, pages and pages of comments, we wanted to just kind of condense the ones that were similar so that people could just really easily see what the main comments were. There was also another concern. Once in a while, people don't necessarily want to share their comment publicly. But I think if everyone is okay with it and they would like to see all of the verbatim comments, we can certainly put those together. Were there any, I guess I was wondering if anybody on this meeting had any concerns about sharing comments publicly? If that would be yeah.
Also, this meeting is recorded and we will be sharing it online. So that's another venue or to listen in onto the comments.
There are a couple other follow-up comments that were saying that, you know, people were interested in seeing verbatim comments.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Another comment about how there's 52 weekends each year. So that's like 104 families per year doing overnight access. And so there was a recommendation that Ka'u residents have reservation priority over volunteer and non-Ka'u residents.
That's a really great comment. We have heard that in the past too. I guess I would like to throw the question out there. If I totally understand giving preference to co-residents, but is there a way to also encourage folks to volunteer or to help Malama the place? And if so, yeah, I guess that's just something to think about as well.
Gabby, there's a couple of hands raised. You wanna?
Yeah, Nohea?
Hi, aloha. So getting back to that comment that Mel made about the Ka'u residents and non-Ka'u resident, I think I would like to know, or I would like for someone to define what a Ka'u resident is. Are we talking about like lineal cultural descendants, or somebody who just moved from the mainland, lived here a year, and they have a license that shows residential, you know, that they're living in Ka'u? I mean, or, you know, is it the guy that's been here for 20 years? You know, like I would like to know the definition of what Ka'u resident is.
Great question. We haven't really defined it. Generally, it would just, I think the easiest way to kind of, I guess, implement it would just kind of by your zip code and where you reside. But that's something that we can think about and yeah, think about some more. Do you have a way of how to define a Ka'u resident, Nohea?
Well, we've been kind of communicating with the national park, and I sat with Kapamali on Friday, and we were kind of trying to like have some kind of line of where that is. And, you know, like the true Ka'u resident, I think would be, you know, to have access with somebody from Ka'u, like lineal cultural descendant from Ka'u. If you lived here 20 years, I mean, you'd have to have made friends somehow within the community, and you could go down with that person with that kind of Ka'u tie versus somebody who just came and then, you know, they have their zip code and their license show that they're a resident, but, you know, really what is their interest in places like this besides, you know, like recreational and whatnot. But I mean, we kind of getting locked out of a lot of places that we were, you know, brought up with. And so I think really defining that is important for people who've been here through multitudes of generations.
Thank you, Nohea. I see Kalani, Uncle Kalani.
Everybody can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo on here. You know, in the beginning it was kind of sketchy how the situation was going. But ever since Nohea had the call, she knew us. She know who we are. So it was easy for her recognize us, knowing that, hey, we're only going down there for get what we want for our family, for eat and stuff. So I kind of was wondering about that whole thing because that concept comes from the national park with the Kalapana family. So people from Kalapana with the national park, people not can just go down the beach. They got to go with a resident because then that resident going to be responsible for the safety and the knowledge of the place. See, because of this whole situation, now we're in a predicament where it's not about sharing. It's about we got to educate all these people that are wandering and they're looking at the social medias of how beautiful the white sand beach is. You know, for us, Kau people, this is our livelihood. And to go to the point where, hey, I got to prove my genealogy. It's like, whoa, wait a minute here. You know? Then certain individuals should do the same as far as residents being here, raised here. You know, now getting back to what Jason was saying about Camilo. Now all of a sudden, because of the adjacent beaches, from Puhina Pale all the way to Waikapuna, and now from Kalawalo to Camilo to Waikapuna, get some shenanigans going on. And I'm kind of questionable about that kind of situations. You know, because now all of a sudden we cannot go here, we cannot go there. So this whole Waikapuna implementation, now when brought in to the Puhina Pale back all the way to Kalawalo. Now that situation is going to get out of hand. No, because Shoreline Act saying, hey, we all got to understand Article 12, Section 7, that's native gathering rights. This is how we feed our family. And eventually I getting old, so my son feeding us. Then my grandson gonna feed us. You know, you hear the government saying our resources. Go back to your resources. But it seems like the resources is getting taken away from us because of grants, big money grants, and the rules that we gotta follow. That place been untouched for years because we follow what we know and what we was taught for generations. So when we talk Malama, we take care. So now you guys all welcome to see that place the way it is for generations, for years past. It's because we at the Kau residents, we took care of that place. We had no, Hanainos or Hakakas with this place. But now all of a sudden the American dollar comes into the picture. We get all these kind of situations. You know, so I'm kind of leery. I read the whole thing. Now we're getting back to the ranch and all these leases and stuff. Now with all these implementations on fencing and stone walls and gates, who's going to pony up the funding for that? Who's going to pony up the labor for that? The costs. I mean, it's one thing to tell somebody, hey, I like you could do this, could do that. Oh, put the money where the mouth is, no? I say it like it is. All these stewardship grants getting big money, but no more nothing for show form. How many years? How many years? Yeah, I'm going to ask the hard questions. I'm going.
So
I'm getting old. I just fighting for my grandson. I'm fighting for my son and everybody that grows up here. No? And like I said, that's why I said Nohea is a big factor. Because when all these problems was going up, the minute you got to go see Nohea for sign for the key and she state the rules with her and Ohana, she know us. So we don't need to go through a whole genealogy fact. She know where we live. She know we from Kau. She know we know down there. So that's why, to tell you the truth, we kind of like run smooth from the prior. I talked to you, Gabby, run smooth because she knows. So if anybody should be one of those guys that are going to be on to implement this whole thing about the planning and stuff, she should be on the committee, and I hope she is. No, because she's easy to go to.
Yeah, so just quick question. So what kind of system would you like to see in place as far as getting access to Waikapuna for both the overnight access and a day access?
Well, you know, I had one phone call and get blown up. Now this brother, born and raised Kau. The water was Malia. Everybody that is from Kau, they know the water was nice. That's when all these young boys, these young men, they like go dive. The water was nice. But he started blowing up my phone. He got a call here, he got a call there. He never know what was going on. And then, oh no, only can go on weekend. This weekend, the water went change. You see what I'm saying? The water was nice during the week. Wasn't nice on Saturday when change up. This is why Kau, well, that places was special. Because when the water nice is when we can go. See? The weather gonna tell us. When the weather stay bust up, the water rough, nobody gonna go. That was the benefit of people in Kau. And that's why that beach is whole planet. So, you know, outsiders like go South Point and Honolulu guys like go rent Kahuku Beach and pay for all that. Hey, go. But Waikapuna, Lepana, all the way to Puhina was special because not everybody could go. You know, now we're going to share. Okay, fine, we're going to share. But share right. Because it seems like now we're going to have to go KTA. We're going to have to go to supermarkets. We teach our kids, you hunt, you fish, you know, stuff. You know, stuff. To me, it's like, no can bring the city to the country and tell the country guys how to live. That's not cool. That's not nice. You know? And again, I'm going to emphasize on the management plan, on the ranching part. Who's going to implement that? The expense for the fence, the stone wall, the gates. Who's going to implement that? The finances for that. No? See, these ranchers, we got to take care of them. These are the ones donating when had the pandemics. No? You kau kako giving away hamburgers and meat and meat for the kupunas. Yeah, where do you think they came from? The local ranchers. Gave them to Kawachi. And now you like gonna make it more hard for them. Because personal vendettas. We can't have that. No? We can. It's not nice. That's not Kauwe. Kauwe, we help each other. Whether on funeral, on baby party, what have you. We help each other. Whether you need smoked meat, you need something, we give. And I know everybody over here hear what I'm saying because they know that. But if nobody gonna talk the right talk, then I'm gonna talk. Because I promised myself I wasn't gonna say anything. But it seems like we're going all over the place. But what is the concern? And the concern is local residents should be a part of it. And as far as volunteering, it's not a problem to volunteer. But you know what is so crazy about volunteering? When you get the guys with the nice trucks, because they get the grant, they get the money to put their gas in their nice trucks because they get the grant. And then they go down because they're getting paid by the grant to go clean up certain beaches down here. But they ask for volunteers. So we go down, go help with our personal vehicles, our own gas. No, after a while, you're gonna get burned out and you can kind of put two and two together. No, so when you ask for volunteers, it's not a volunteer, or you volunteer, you get options. No, you volunteer because you love down there and you want to make a difference to down there. No, but like I'm gonna echo what Mel was saying, because his father is a good fisherman and I make flies for the father for catch benpache and red fish. No, so the thing is, how are we gonna implement all this? Right? That's the thing. So I know I talk plenty, and hey, that's how I am. Gabby, you know me. I know I just was holding back. I was just holding back, but because I think about where we call Lepana, and it's adjacent to Waikapuna. And we call this place Toko place. The old man Toko. So brother should be listening right about now to what I'm talking. Okay. So Toko, the old man, I talk story with him down the beach. He come down, the wife make smoke and musubi for him. He only go that place, that one spot at night, just for a little while, just for catch 5-6 red fish for him and his wife, the old man Toko. So after that, we start calling him Toko Place. Okay. Now the situation with down there, Lepana, because it's adjusted to Waikapuna, is you cannot go over you cannot use the lava road because you cannot drive over the cave. D8s go over the cave. We was raised in that cave. No, we know everything about down there.
Sorry, Uncle. Sorry, just to clarify, you're talking about somewhere that's off of Waikapuna, yeah?
Yeah, but you see, that's the big picture. Okay, that's the big picture. The big picture is Kalawalo. You have stewardship going on over there. No? Because Kalawalo to Camilo gets to Waikapuna. Lepana, from Lepana gets to Waikapuna. Now all of a sudden, we get this whole holding of the coastline because of the Waikapuna problem. So what I'm talking about the Toko place is now, if that man was still alive, God bless him, you can tell him he can go down, catch 5-6 redfish for his wife because he cannot drive over the lava for go to his point. Only for catch 5 redfish for him and his family. For real. It's not cool. No? But I guess that's how it is, because people that raised in a city, born in a city, come ka'u, no, and say they're Hawaiian, but they don't live Hawaiian. They don't raise their kids for be Hawaiian, for learn the resources and share. No, it doesn't mean you gotta be Hawaiian. You get the Filipino boys, Japanese boys, you get all these boys. I'm not racist. These boys all know the kau'e. It's not a Hawaiian thing, it's a kau'e. So, Gabby, I'm proud of you and all the things you're doing and the stress you're going through. But there is that problem of Kaloalo and Lepana from Puhina Pale. You should really look into that part because that is affecting this whole management with Waikapuna.
Okay.
Because that's what Masters was talking about coming from Camilo. Yeah, you're going to get outsiders doing that. Why? Because the situation. I just telling you, but yeah, thank you, folks. God bless.
No, thank you for explaining that. We will look into it. And I just want to share my screen real quick because it's coming up to 8 o'clock. I just want to respect everybody's time. See. Okay, so just one last thing. So the management plan again is on the county's website. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, if you want a hard copy, you can go to Pahala or Nalehu Public Library. There's a hard copy there as well. If you have any additional comments, please submit it to us by April 22nd. You can email me. Or if you have any follow-up questions, you feel free to email me or call me. I'm happy to talk story. And then there's a QR code on here too that you can scan. You can just fill out the Google Sheet with your comments as well. Okay. With that, I just want to say thank you to everybody for staying on this evening and really, really appreciate all you folks. Please reach out if you have any other questions or comments. Okay, thank you, everybody.
One last thing. There were still a few more comments in the chat. So I just wanted to let people know that we are going to collect those and make those available to everyone and do some responses to that as well. So they're not going to be lost.
Yes, and we will send out follow-up email to everybody with the recording to this presentation and notes as well. Thank you, Sherry, for bringing that up. Okay, thank you, everybody. It's great to see you guys.